Yeah, to get rid of me bouncing in the chair. Okay. Hello, today we're at the Henry Carter Hall Library. It's Thursday, the
Third.
the third of
No, I'm
November,
sorry, fourth.
4th of November, 2021. And I have the privilege today of introducing you to Jason Bloom, who is going to talk to us about what it's like to have a career in the military. And we're so happy to see you.
I appreciate it, Lynn.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so how old were you when you entered the service?
So I joined when I was 19.
When you were 19?
Yeah.
And where did you go to basic?
So, well, I joined out in Oregon. So I joined the Oregon National Guard
Okay.
first. And I went to basic training at Fort Jackson.
Okay.
I then went on, after I graduated from Jackson, to Fort Leonard Wood,
Oh,
Missouri. That's
all
where I got my AIT, my advanced training.
Okay. Now, what specialty did you do?
I originally joined as a crane operator.
All right, and because you thought that would have a great opportunity in civilian life, or just because you like machines?
So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I had graduated high school and I was in a program for hospitality, 2 years in a community college in Oregon, and 2 years at the University of Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
And I soon realized that all my professors were older with no families, and they had worked these careers, 70 hours a week, holidays, weekends, and I knew even then I wanted a little more domesticated lifestyle. So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I had a good friend of mine who had joined, and he was telling me about it. So I went down the next day after talking to him, and I joined. And they said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I don't care. What do you have?"
All right, good.
And so originally I was going to be like some sort of chemical detection, but then I realized I don't want to do that. That didn't appeal to me. And then so I had run a little bit of heavy equipment in high school at a job. So they said, "What about a crane operator?" I said, "Let's do it."
Oh, excellent. All right, so you had AIT.
Yeah.
And then where did they send you after that?
So being National Guard, I went back home. So once I graduated basic and AIT, went back to Oregon,
Yeah.
where I walked in 2 days after I returned to my readiness NCOs, my HR, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to move back to Connecticut, where I'm originally from." So I went. They were a little upset about that.
Oh, okay,
but,
they didn't want to
yeah.
lose you?
But by regulation, they couldn't stop
Okay.
me. So I came back here, and my first unit assigned here was in Brantford.
Oh, okay, at the Armory?
Yep, at
Okay.
the Armory right on Montague Street.
Yep, okay,
Yeah.
very good. And so, now this is, a 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the
Yes.
summer?
So at that point, I was M-Day, which is that 1 week in a month,
Yeah.
2 weeks a year. And so I did that until around 2008, when I came on full-time orders.
Okay.
And I had a couple deployments and adventures in between then, for sure.
You did. When you were in the beginning of your career, and especially when you were away, was that the first time you were away from home, when you did basic and ATI?
Yeah, I think for the most part. My parents still to this day love to tell the story of how scared I was the day they dropped me off, and how nervous I was when the night that they were dropping me off to go get processed in and leave for basic training.
Wow. All right, now are you in contact now with anyone you were in basic training with?
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't talked to anyone. The last time I talked to someone for my basic training was 2007, when I bumped into them in Afghanistan at one of the bases.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so that was 10 years later, 10 years after I had gone to basic.
Wow.
We were in a gym, and I looked at this one person. I said, "We were in basic together."
Oh
Yeah.
my
So it's
goodness,
pretty
that
neat.
was, oh.
Yeah.
What do people who aren't in the military, what do we need to understand about what it's like to have a deployment in a war zone?
I think most people understand these days, what it is. It comes down to sacrifice, right? Most people, when they thank somebody, say, "Hey, thank you for your service," or "Thank you for your sacrifice." I mean, that's what you're doing. You're sacrificing your time and the experiences with being away from home, with your family. So it's tough, but I always used to say, and I've deployed 3 times overseas, I used to say that the family members back home have it worse because they're on their own and we're just absent from from the household. And but we're when I'm overseas, we're in a group together. We're there helping each other and leaning on each other, and so we have a stronger support structure most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you have your wife Colleen. You have 4 children.
Yeah.
When you were first deployed, were you married then, or were you married after your
No.
deployment?
So my first deployment was Bosnia in 2001.
Okay.
So it was 2000, and I had just started dating Colleen.
Okay.
And I was in the Brantford unit, and the first formation for a drill Saturday morning, they came out and announced that the infantry was looking for volunteers to go on a deployment to Bosnia. And I remember spending the whole weekend listening to all my other members in that company go, oh, I'd volunteer but this, my career, my house, this stuff. And then so I had gone home Sunday night, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I don't have any of that stuff. The career wasn't too big. I was doing a few community college classes, but nothing that couldn't have been put on hold. And so that was my first opportunity deploying. And Colleen made me promise that I would never volunteer for one after that when I came home. And then of course I volunteered for I think 3 more after, so yeah.
She's a strong woman.
She is an amazing strong woman, yeah.
Now, I have to confess, Colleen and I are cousins, so I do have a little inner knowledge of it. But I know Colleen is an amazing letter writer. So, when that first deployment was before cell phones and technology, did you rely on letters for communication?
We did. I actually remember, so that was 2000. I remember my cousin giving me a class on the internet, and that's where I created my first Hotmail account.
Okay.
So we did email.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if we had Skype. I think we did have Skype back then. But yeah, we did a lot of letter writing, and my grandmother at the time, my dad's mother was told me, said, I'll write you a letter back for everyone you send to me. So she was my main letter correspondent when I was there. Yeah.
I'd like to find out about the people who influenced you in the service. Do you have any commanding officers or leaders that made a particular impression on you?
Oh, absolutely. I joined originally only for 3 years, which is that's a pretty short amount of time. And in those 3 years, I moved from Oregon to Connecticut. When I first came here to Connecticut, I had an NCO. So my sergeant, who I met, was a prior service Marine Corps. In fact, he just retired. His Master Sergeant Tim Harrison. He just retired after 42 years of military service.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was probably my biggest mentor initially, and I think he might have recognized that I might have actually been worth putting a little effort into, and he sent me to additional training. I got qualified on the 50 cal machine gun, and he helped me join a marksmanship team, and I shot in a national-wide competition, all in my first 3 years.
Wow.
So that kind of got me, that kind of hooked me. I recognized early on that there were a bunch of extra experiences I could get from it. So he was definitely one of my biggest influencers.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And then, I've been in for 24 years now, Lynn, so I've had so many. I've had so many officers, NCOs, fellow soldiers that I've learned a lot from. I try to take something from all of them. They say you can learn something from everyone, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the best way to do something, sometimes the way not to do something. So
we're not going to do that again.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of those where I've just gotten I learned maybe not how to do something. So
you have a certain joyousness about this.
Yeah.
It's in your veins, in your blood, in who you are as a person.
It is. The military, even the Guard, it's still a lifestyle. There's plenty of careers where people, all right, so I do this during, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 or whatever. But when you're a soldier all the time, 24 hours a day, even if you're part-time. I spent the half of my career just as an M-Day soldier part-time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until '08, around then, that I went full-time.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, I love being a soldier. I love serving. I've gotten so much out of it. You know, you have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice time and opportunities. I think about all the birthday parties I missed, and you know, just the certain events that were going on. I had to go away, and you know, one of them was at the time I missed my grandmother's, my mother's 80th birthday party because I was away for training.
Yeah, okay.
And
Yeah.
I remember being so bummed about that, but then realizing, you know, it wasn't a big deal. She was proud of me, you know, and that was more important, what I was achieving, than, you know, being there for an event that I could, you know, could still celebrate.
And you could celebrate it when you got home.
Correct.
Right? Yeah,
Yep.
and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Were there your brothers in arms, your mates, you're on a mission and so on. That esprit de corps, that bonding. What do you do? What did you think you brought to that? How do you make it work?
You know, it just, I think it happens naturally just through shared experiences, you know. They say, or the shared suck. You know,
Yeah.
they heard the embrace the suck is one of the, you know,
One of the-
common military
okay.
sayings. But yeah, when you're in the same, it starts at basic training. You know, it started at basic training where you had people coming from all different walks of life, all different diversities, all different economic situations, cultural, and you're all sharing the same scenario, and it's tough. You know, it wasn't a walk in the park.
No.
It automatically starts to bring you together. And then you realize, which I think is part of the design, that you're stronger when you're working together and doing that. So, yeah, I mean, it's funny because it translates across anywhere. I was at Disney World one day with the family, and we were riding a boat to Magic Kingdom, and I saw this guy, and we just automatically knew that we were both veterans. And then we started up a dad joke fight, you know, and we were telling dad jokes, and it was just, you know, it was one of those, it was a complete stranger, but we were having fun with it. So.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Yeah.
That's so wonderful. Oh,
Yeah.
that's when you were deployed and your family is here, is there some built-in support for you know, the wives?
Military? Oh, yeah.
I mean, is there an association? Do they get together, or does each family make friends on their own?
Yeah, so there are, it varies for the Connecticut Guard, or well, the National Guard as a whole, they have family readiness groups. So each company, each unit is required to have one. So at a minimum, just kind of have this designated group. You have a leader. You know, it's typically like the commander's spouse or you know, the highest NCO, the first sergeant, whomever. They'll usually take it. Their spouse will take it over. So there's that. And then when you deploy, they kind of ramp up, and there's more additional support from the state and other entities.
Good.
Yeah. So there are support. And then so my wife, the first deployment, she became friends with one of the guys wives that I was with. So we were kind of hanging out over in Afghanistan, and these guys were back here together. So it was nice.
I have heard that the geography in Afghanistan makes that country unique and hard to be a country because of the geography and the way. How do you react to that?
So
Where were you?
I was stationed at Bagram, so that was the main base, the largest base. I think we were about not too far. You know, I think it was like 40-50 kilometers from Kabul, from Kabul, from the capital. It was a lot of mountains, you know, rocky stuff. We drove through. Where did we drive through? Around parts of Utah that were kind of similar, a little bit, reminded me a little bit. But then there was this one valley that was just lush and green. I remember we were on this mission and coming over and this mountain ridge and then seeing it. It was amazing, the contrast of just this, you know, really beautiful, lush area. So there was definitely some extremes.
I
Yeah.
would say so.
And then, so that was my first tour. I was based out of there, and we did a decent amount of traveling in the area. And then my second one, I was at a pretty remote location where most of our stuff we did on foot.
Wow. And what were the facilities like? I mean, was it, was the supply chain in place? Did you have
Yeah, oh, yeah.
the provisions and everything?
Yeah, in 06, 07, when I was there, Bagram was really pretty nice. It was actually set up pretty nice. We had good internet. We had good chow halls. There was numerous ones. They had decent gyms. They had the phone service worked pretty well. So I was able to Skype and talk at home. Yeah, regularly. So that was pretty, and it was pretty built up. It was like a little mini city. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, good. And boy, the team that did that initially must have had their work cut out.
Oh
for
yeah,
them.
it was a lot different than
Yeah.
when I got there. Yeah, than the initial.
Yeah.
And then my second tour, we were out in a pretty remote spot. But even then, I used to be impressed because our internet worked really well. We had good equipment, and
Good.
there was only about 100 of us on this little remote outpost, and 60 infantry soldiers, and then another 40 or so support personnel, generator mechanics, water purification, stuff like that, just IT, commo, so that was quite the adventure, being out in that remote area.
And were you doing reconnaissance? Were you,
We were doing a lot of, we were interacting with the local villages. So we would try to go in there, but we were doing mostly on foot. It was not a good area to drive vehicles just because there were a lot of IEDs. The location was not, was some pretty hostile for the most part. But we would go into and meet with the village elders, just try to improve the relations, see if we could help in any way, if we could do anything to,
Good.
So it was quite the adventure.
That was, I would say so.
Yeah.
I have a question. When you're together with the people in your company and you're focused on the mission and the solid body of people working to do that and succeed, are there ways that you can distinguish yourself in that operation?
Yeah, so everybody brings their own strengths, and weaknesses to it. That's the great part of being, that's one of the benefits that I love about the National Guard. The National Guard brings, when we deploy overseas and we do missions, we're bringing all these different skill sets that everyone brings all their experience from their civilian careers and everything else. So it's pretty amazing. So there's opportunities for lots of people to excel.
Good.
I had one really young soldier who normally would just kind of be like, hey, do this grunt work stuff, and they were really good at commo stuff. So they became a real good asset when there was issues with that. So yeah, it's one way.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. Now, right now, you're recruiting?
Yeah, so as of the 1st of November, I'm the assigned recruiter.
Okay, so now
for the
what's
shoreline.
that gonna be like? Where are you located?
So I'm located right down the road in Westbrook.
Okay.
At the Westbrook Armory.
Okay,
And I'm taking an unconventional career path.
okay.
So I can tell you that most of my peers in recruiting, they're younger soldiers, maybe in their 4th, 5th, 8th year, they get in, and this is their entry level job into for full-time service. And I had just come off of running the state retention program for the past 3 years.
Okay.
And I had been pretty successful with the program, and I'd taken it about as far as I could take it, I thought, and we reached number 3 in the nation, so.
Good for you.
Yeah, and so I was looking for the next challenge, the next opportunity. I had gotten a lot of enjoyment out of the retention and a lot of fulfillment, because the basis of my program was meeting with soldiers that are serving now, finding out how the Guard can continue to help, help them achieve their goals. So I would meet with, and it was easy for me because we could talk the same talk.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge I'm finding now as the the recruiter dealing with the civilian population.
Yeah.
But why a soldier initially got into the military or into the Guard, you know, it probably has changed over the span of their career. And so I would help try to identify what else are they trying to achieve, and hey, can you, you know, do you realize this is an opportunity, or have you considered this? So it was really, you know, it was really fulfilling, because I had so many soldiers that just would be like, I didn't know I could do that, or oh my gosh, now I can do this. So it was rewarding that in that sense. So that's another one of the reasons why I decided to go for the recruiting, because I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go out in my local community, on the shoreline, and try to help extend these opportunities that people don't realize that are available to them. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's
Wonderful.
It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be rewarding. It's difficult, you know, which is anything worth doing.
Yeah.
It's gonna take some work, so it's gonna be good.
Oh, that's super.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness,
Yeah.
that's super. So when people say to you, Jason Bloom, thank you for your service, you react,
I always say thank you for your support,
okay,
because, you know, I look at all of the, you know, my predecessors, the Vietnam era people. I go to, you know, go into the VFW, or just bump into Vietnam era veterans. I've heard some nasty stories, you know, and it's just, it's almost unfathomable for me to think of society, you know, for them to have been treated, you know, in certain instances, that way. So I'm always just thankful for the support, and
very good.
yeah.
Good. All right, and then the other question, when you watch movies about people in the military service, are there examples that, like you said, oh my goodness, that would never happen? Does it happen all the time?
Oh yeah, Colleen won't watch a military movie with me. It's just like, you just ruin it by saying that's nonsense. So yeah, but I mean, I don't watch too many military movies. You know, some of the classics.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Very good. Jason Bloom, thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Lynn. Yeah, appreciate it. Oh my gosh, was I okay? Was I on
You were
camera the whole
wonderful.
time?
You're wonderful.